Welcome to Permission to Kick Ass, the show that gives you a virtual seat at the bar for the real conversations that happen between entrepreneurs. I'm interviewing all kinds of business owners, from those just a few years into freelancing to CEOs helming 9-figure companies. If you've ever worried that everyone else just seems to get it and you're missing something or messing things up, this show is for you. I'm your host, Angie Coley, and let's get to it. Hey, and welcome back to Permission to Kick Ass. With me today is my new friend, Aleasha Bahr. Say hi.
Hi.
It was so hard for me to actually hit record because we were just catching up, talking about podcasting on the road. For those of you watching the video or not watching the video, I am clearly shooting from a hotel, and that was a whole fun conversation about the setup on that. But enough about podcasting on the road. Tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah. So I am a sales expert, and I show done-for-you service providers how to convert up to 80% of their sales meetings by giving them the words and the structure and strategy they need to navigate a sales conversation comfortably without pain or pressure or pitching or pretending to be somebody else. It's all custom.
Ooh, I love that. Because I think, and I think I speak for a lot of entrepreneurs that struggled with sales, that it always felt pushy or deeply tied to your identity in a way that, like, if they said no, it feels like a deep personal, oh my God, I'm being rejected as a person versus the service is not right for me or the offer wasn't right for me. So I love that you have made this your focus and are really helping people to get comfortable with it.
Thank you for saying that. I feel the same way. People overcomplicate sales. Most people are actually very, very good at it. And then sales training tells you, no, don't follow your intuition. Do this really uncomfortable thing, even though your body's screaming not to.
Well, that sounds interesting. Tell me a little bit more about it. Most people are actually really good at sales. I don't think I've ever heard somebody say that before.
Yeah. Well, sales is just a conversation. So if you think about, like, have you ever sold your friend on going to a concert with you?
Absolutely.
Or like a restaurant, or, getting the friends to rally around a certain place that you want to go, or that most people are very natural at it. The difference is that they know what the motivations are in those situations for the person across from them. So they can easily customize the pitch to that person. They know, Bill has a wife, and kids. So I'm going to sell the baseball game as a way to get some peace and quiet. Versus someone who's single, you're going to say, oh, well, let's go get a beer and mingle with some single people. So the difference is, in a sales conversation, you have to ask questions to know what's important to the other person.
I like that because I whenever I'm working with coaching clients, that's one thing that seems to come up. There's just the nerves of what kind of package do I put together? What kind of offer do I put together? And usually it winds up that I ask them several questions they don't have the answer to. And I said, so it sounds like a lot of the hesitation and the anxiety you are facing around putting together the right packages because you don't know enough to make a recommendation. Is that accurate? And they're like, well, now that you're asking me the questions, yeah, I don't really know what to recommend. My experience has been similar to yours. I really struggled with sales when I thought I had to read people's minds and be that kind of like expert that comes in and says, I'm going to show you what you don't even know you don't know.
Yeah.
And make all of these recommendations that are right on point. When I just started listening to people and then repeating back. So what I hear is you're really struggling with your email. Here are a couple of ways that I can help with the email. Does either any of those sound like we're hitting the mark? And people were like, yeah, actually that first one was, wait, tell me more about that. And it just became a conversation. I kind of accidentally stumbled on that. What?
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, it really is just natural. Like it's the offer is the same, but how you're positioning it is different.
I think that makes it a lot less complicated too, because there's one program that I've been a coach in for a while where I'm usually providing feedback on people's offers. And these are creative service providers, and they're coming up with like an intro offer, a trial run offer, and then a couple of back-end offers that they could do with particular clients that they want to work with. And the most common problem that I run into is that they have like 20 different services and offers that they want to focus on. And I'm like, do you even remember all of those service officers? How do you expect me to remember all of them? We got to pare it down. You could do everything, but you got to start with just a couple of things, just a few.
Yeah, totally. There are things people often feel like they have to do stuff too. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
You can just do the things that you like to do.
That one is a big one. Like
Yeah.
everybody listening, take that down and put it on a mug, tattoo it on your forehead. You don't have to offer anything, especially just because someone asked, no matter how much you love them, no matter how long you have worked with them, no matter how much money they offer to throw at you. I mean, that might be a little bit tempting. You could bring in somebody else to outsource that too, but you don't have to offer any service that you don't want to. I joked, it's not even entirely a joke, but I like to treat everything with a sense of humor because that's just my personality. For the longest time, I used to tell people, I don't push buttons. I'm just a copywriter. That's all you want me to do. Trust me. If you get me anywhere near the back end, even in all innocence, no matter how intuitive and how many tutorials I watch, I somehow find the red button that messes it all up. And I don't want to do that to you. So let's have me in the sandbox that I'm good at playing in. That is the strategy. That is the copy. That is the overall email direction. We need somebody that's techie in here doing the segmenting and the tagging and the test sends and things like that. And it was never a problem when I started treating it with a sense of humor like that and saying, like, you don't want me to red button your email marketing. Trust me.
Well, also it's like, yeah, just tell someone that's not my zone of genius. So I have some resources for you. I'll point you to this person.
I like that.
Yeah. So especially with the creative services you were talking about, those people are often like, well, I guess that I'll do website design and, logo design and graphic design for social media. And then I'll do social media posting. And then and it's like, they actually just love branding. And it's like, just, you don't have to do those things. You just point them to a social media marketing agency for that. And, it's crazy. They don't want someone that's not their zone of genius doing that.
Yeah.
Just let them know.
Most rational people do not want somebody that is working outside of their zone of genius. There are some folks that, because we're in business with humans and humans going to human, they don't always do things that make sense. We don't always do things that make sense. So you will get somebody that's like, I just really want a one-stop shop for that. And that's usually when I go, that sounds like an agency. And that can be a pretty spendy investment, but here are a good couple ones that I know. I'm happy to make an introduction if you'd like something like that. But basically saying without saying, I'm not going to offer that service to you. And I'm not going to sell all my time to you doing things that I'm not good at doing. No, but with love.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just like, that's not me. So, I can point you somewhere else. I do want to preface that a lot of times if somebody does all of it, it's not all going to be quality. Just saying. However, do whatever is in your best interest.
Yep. You got to do what you got to do. And that, how did you get into sales? Because that does seem like an interesting profession to me to specialize in helping people get better at sales.
Yeah, well, basically, I kind of accidentally was good at sales. I was always natural at sales, right? And it turns out that the thing that people really want is for you to just give a shit. So that's really easy, right? And I really cared about people and they could pick up on that. And so people who are natural at sales never have to take any sales training and they never have to define what they do. So when somebody asks them, how are you so good at sales? They're like, well, I don't really sell. And it's like, well, what the hell does that mean? Nobody can imitate that. So I have put it into words and it's about fitting instead of selling. And they tell someone when it's not a fit. And that is what makes them say that they're not selling. So they can say, actually, you don't need to buy that thing. That's not going to help you a lot. What you really need to focus on is this thing. And that transparency and trust does so much for the sale because you just actually care about the other person. And I had a marketing agency after I got out of corporate. And then it's real hard when you have overhead. You got to bring on people. It's difficult to scale. Also, I miss sales. And I realized that there was really bad sales training out there. And I knew a lot of experts that were wonderful at what they did and did not know how to share that with people. And it was tragic. So, and the things that they were being told to do, and I am still pretty baffled at how people are persuaded by this messaging, but it's all very aggressive sales strategies that are taught. And these people are making shitloads of money telling people this is how they need to sell. And it's extremely complicated a lot of time too. Sometimes it's you need to have this tone when you say this word and this tone. And it's like, hey, why don't you just focus on your intention behind what you're saying, and your tone's naturally going to follow. Like curiosity and empathy. Like I can't imagine how inauthentic a conversation would feel if the person is like, when I say this sentence, I have to pretend like my tone is this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to, like a show, a play or a rock show where you can tell somebody's really in their head thinking about what they're doing as they're doing it. You can tell that there's a separation between them and you as they're like over analyzing everything that's going on in their head. That's what I got wrong about musical performance for a long time. I was constantly thinking about what I was doing. When I stopped that and deliberately was like, nope, back down into the body from the head, back in the body. We're going to feel the music. We're going to see whatever comes up, including forgetting the words, which I have done plenty of times before. That was always when people told me, I don't know what you had tonight, like what you drank, what you did, but that was just a magical performance. And I stopped thinking about it and just did it.
Being present. It's all about being present. So when I saw all these aggressive sales strategies, they create horrible buyer experiences, by the way. And it's also very unpleasant for the seller. Neither people are having a good time. And it works for a very small percentage of the population. Basically, aggressive men is all it works for. Everyone else feels really like they're putting on some strange costume that doesn't fit quite right. And then they feel bad that it doesn't work for them. So there's this like shaming or gaslighting that happens. And a lot of people are like, oh my God, it's me. I'm bad at sales. I'm terrible at sales. And it's like, no, you're terrible at selling like an aggressive, high pressure dude. Like that's a good thing. You're probably going to sell, once you lean into who you are as a person, you're going to outsell that guy so much.
Oh, absolutely. That's my frustration with the one trick ponies too. I like a lot of the folks that I've worked with before have expressed frustration because I worked in marketing a lot. And it's like, what's the prospecting method that's going to get me business? And I say, I got bad news for you. The reason that you've got so many people out there all teaching their one thing is because all of those things work. They just found the one that works best for them. So they think that that's the thing. That's their one trick pony, right? So you, unfortunately, have to go out there and try all the things and find out what works for you. And there's going to be a learning curve, and you're going to feel dumb from time to time, or you're going to feel uncomfortable from time to time. I told this story last week on a different podcast where I was like, I didn't know what I didn't know about copywriting. And the book that I read, The Well-Fed Writer, had all kinds of prospecting methods in it. And that's how I found myself at 5 a.m. because I was ashamed, dropping little home printed, waiting for one line at a time to eke out on my printer, home printed flyers on unsuspecting business owners. And I was going out at 5 a.m. because I did not want anybody to be present there and catch me in my walk of shame, leaving my little flyers. Suffice it to say, that's the only time I did that, because I just didn't like that sensation enough. And I was like, and I didn't get any calls from it. And I was like, all right, cool. Checking that one off the list. We're not doing that anymore.
That's such a great story and a very realistic portrait of what it looks like. And that is what bothers me about solutions that are widely promoted. They're like, this is what's going to work. And I don't think that makes somebody an expert if you have one strategy. Exactly. A lot of people can do something for themselves. Very few people can do something to get the same result for somebody else. And I think that's the difference between an expert and someone who's just not you should be able to customize it to the person if you're an expert.
It should be adaptable, whatever you can come up with to do. And I used to tell, or I still tell coaching students that all the time when they're talking about getting business, but like, you need to pay attention to what lights you up and what drains your energy. Because if anything that you're trying to do falls into that energy drain camp, we need to just eliminate it. We need to focus on the stuff that you actually like doing. That is how you're going to bring in the business. I liked it. We talked about why I'm travel podcasting, because I'm about to go to this conference called the Badass Business Summit. Totally appropriate for my personality. That is where I like to do business. I like to just get in conversations with people and talk about their business and get all excited and maybe have a couple of drinks and do karaoke. But that's my style, and that's how it works for me.
I love that so much. The permission to do whatever works for you. And since we're all in business for ourselves, we get to do whatever the hell we want. And let's take
Yes.
advantage of that and not let somebody who preaches that this is the only way to do something make you feel pressured to do something that does not align with you. Like
Mhm.
you get to make the calls, you get to create whatever you want. You get to take a nap in the middle of the day.
Absolutely. Naps are my favorites. They're the best.
They
And you
really
can
help me.
guarantee you, if I disappear from a meeting or a conference, that is where I am. I am taking a nap.
It makes me higher quality.
Yes. It makes me so much easier to deal with. And I remember one of my first business meetings sitting at a bar with a bunch of colleagues, playing a totally inappropriate game, having totally not business conversation over a couple of drinks, and having the conscious thought of, this is business? I like this. This is way different than what I thought when it was like sitting in a meeting in my suit, just trying to get through this. And so I can say whatever I need to say. No, you can build a business around your own particular strengths. Not everybody's going to like hanging out at a bar. That's fine. There are lots of different ways. There's a reason why the golf course business became a trope, right? People doing business over golf. Yeah, just be a person and have human conversations. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, when I was at corporate, we would, I would work with clients who had very large national companies, like the owners of them. And they're just like me and you, man. They just want to have a good time with the person who gives a shit. That's it. Yeah.
Yes.
And they're tired. They're so tired of people showing up formally and like with buzzwords and trying to pretend like they're really smart and they're so over it. They just want somebody to come in and be real, no matter how rich they are or how big their company is or whatever.
Oh yeah. I had another guest on for one episode where she talked about how she broke into being a ghostwriter, like writing business books for established leaders. And it started in a similar way. It was a client that she already liked working with. She had helped him on a number of other writing projects. And he said, "Do you do books?" And she came back to him and she said, "I've never done it before, but here's what I could do. And if you want to try with me, I can try." But basically came at it from that place. I like working with you. I'm going to be honest. I've never done that. I'd be willing to try it with you if you're willing to give me the leeway to potentially try and fail. Let's see what we can do together. And that's how she completely pivoted and changed her business and became a professional ghostwriter full time because just that connection, just that conversation. And how hard was that sale right there? Like, yeah, I could do it. I think I could figure that out. Do you want to try? Yeah.
That's the thing, transparency and trust. It's like, I want to do what's best for you. So if you can't afford to have me be imperfect, I want to let you know I'm not going to be perfect.
Yes. And there's a market for everybody wherever they're at. I think that was my biggest frustration when I was training a lot more copywriters, is that everybody came into the industry thinking that they had to be a me, that they had to be a control beater, or that they had to be like the top of the line. Otherwise, no one would ever want to hire them. And I'm like, no, there's somebody for everybody. There might be a beginner business owner that could use a beginner copywriter. There might be an established business owner, but they're only just carving out a marketing budget so they can only afford someone brand new. There might be a business who wants to bring in someone brand new so that they can invest a lot in training them and then keep them for a long time and grow as the business grows. So like, there's a lot of different reasons why somebody wouldn't need top of the line, the most expensive talent out there. So stop feeling like you're falling short. That's just a story you've got happening in between your own ears, that you're good enough as you are.
Yeah. And oh my gosh, I was talking to someone the other day. This reminds me of it. Who was saying like, a lot of people feel like they need to charge a whole bunch from the beginning. And then they're like feeling really not confident because they've never delivered and gotten someone a result, but they've been told they're just supposed to charge, like they have. And I'm like, no, you can just charge with what you're comfortable with and let the person know, similar to what you said that your ghostwriter friend did. Like, hey, this is one of my first goes at it. All that to say, like, you're going to get an incentivized price because of it and probably more access to me than other people will have moving forward. And it won't be perfect. I'll need your feedback to make it a really good service. And as long as you're cool with that, like, let's roll. And then just afterwards, ask them, what would you have paid?
Yeah. Ooh, I like that. What would you have paid for that? And you're going to get some usable data from questions like that and some not usable data from questions like that, right? Because not everybody knows what things cost or what it takes to produce, especially like creative work, since it's so cerebral. But I love that you picked up on one of my favorite things, which is turning a perceived weakness into a strength and going, all right, like I used to tell people you should charge your worth, right? What empty words? What the hell does that even mean? Charge your worth, right? If you're feeling low, how does that impact your worth, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's a different thing entirely to charge a price that you're comfortable with and then close the sale and have to deliver the business and then learn what you can learn from that. So I would tell people, I think that you're really undercharging with this service that you're offering. That said, I also know that if you don't feel comfortable saying that number, you're just not going to say it. So if you must start here, that's great. Don't stay here. Limit it to the first 3 people. Talk about it exactly like Aleasha said. This is an introductory offer. This is a new service that I'm offering. So I've got this special deal for the first 3 people that I do this service with. And what I need in return is X, Y, Z. Just to set the expectation up front and don't stay there and then learn what you can learn. Like I know that my first $2,500 sales page that I did, I was over the moon at the time because that was the most I'd ever charged for a single project in my life. And after I did that, I went, I should have charged like quadruple that because that was so much more work than I thought it was going to be. But I never would have known that if I hadn't charged it and hadn't done the work.
And so next time you were able to confidently be like, no, this is how much it's worth. Like,
absolutely. Absolutely.
You gradually, like you increase, I'm all about the gradual increase in the baby steps. And people feel so much pressure to be perfect from the beginning and to charge a bunch from the beginning. And it's really just about evolving and being honest with someone. Everybody just wants honesty.
Yes. You don't have to be perfect. And like, let's just go ahead and completely get this mistaken notion out of your head that you're going to get through business. Like if you come up with a perfect plan, that you're somehow going to get through business unscathed, you're never going to embarrass yourself. You're never going to make a mistake. You're never going to upset a client. You're never going to upset yourself or your family. Like it's not going to happen. But trust yourself that once you get into those situations that you can get out and you can figure it out as long as you are focused on the relationships and not the tactics.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny. Sometimes I think about how we give ourselves, a pretty significant timeline to learn a sport or an instrument or a language. And then in knowing that we're going to fail and we're going to look stupid. And with business, we're like, oh my God, it's been 6 weeks.
Why don't I have an MBA already in 6 weeks?
Like, you would never expect that, right? From an MBA. But with business, why haven't I gotten my first, $10,000 or $20,000 and nobody wants me? And man, you're just starting out. Like you got to baby steps.
Temper the expectations. And yes, there are some random viral TikToks and things like that people that find themselves in, $10,000 weeks overnight. But they were also producing content for how long before they went viral and putting out things that didn't land and trying. I mean, the point is that everything that you see for every hockey stick overnight success story, most of the rest of them that you're not really paying attention to were it's all over the map. Up and down several times, backward, forward, all over until they suddenly took off. 10 years in the making, that overnight success.
Yeah, I love that quote. I mean, it's just so hard. I mean, and we logically know that, but still put the pressure on ourselves to do it faster. But also, like, even if you're employed somewhere, like you're going to have the same embarrassing stuff happen all the time. Like as humans, we're just... But, it's funny how scared we are of failure. Like it's deadly. Like you're going to die or you'll be injured in some way. Like there's no physical harm at all that comes from it, but deathly afraid to fail.
That used to be the thing, right? Before we became the modern society that we are. And I don't know if you ever get curious about stupid shit the way that I do, but every once in a while I'll look at a potato and go, who decided to eat that? Like who was the first human being that just went, like ground nugget. I'm going to take a bite of that. And when you start to think about that and follow that down the rabbit hole, right? That's really fun. There's a lot of stuff out there that looks really weird that we eat pretty regularly. And I'm like, who was the first? That That one was a high price of failure if you ate the
Yeah.
wrong thing back in the day.
Oh yeah. I do think about that. I'm like, how did they, figure, because I mean, you think about like the indigenous tribes that are like, well, if you eat this cactus, you're going to another universe. And like, you had to try all of these things and see which ones would kill you, which ones would intoxicate you, which ones tasted good. And someone was just a brave soul.
Mm-hmm. And there were sacrifices. Oh man, were there sacrifices. Yeah. But thankfully, it's not like that anymore. You're not really following a blind path and having to figure things out on your own in a vacuum with no support. There are so many people who have walked the path before you. Aleasha has. I have. We're turning around and sending the elevator back down, as one of my mentors said. And that's what I love about this. Nobody got anywhere they are in business without help. And anybody who is telling you they got there by themselves is full of shit, full of it.
Yeah, I don't see how, because they at least watched somebody and learned from them. Even if they didn't interact with them, they learned from somebody else and imitated or something like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We all come at business from a different lens, different background experience, different life situations, right? And even people that inherit businesses still have to make mistakes, still have to learn the hard way, even if they've had somebody mentoring them along the way. Once they're on their own and they have to make the decisions, they're going to make the wrong decisions. That's just something we're all going to do. Like, welcome to the club. You fucked up. We're going to get jackets and go bowling.
It's a rite of passage. I was telling my friend the other day, like, you just are like, I think this is the right decision. Oh, no, that wasn't it. Okay, wait, I think this is, nope, not that one. Okay. And that's just kind of what it looks like. And she was like, it sounds so simple and easy when you put it that way. And it's like, that's really what it is. You have to take the judgment out of it. Like one of my favorite quotes is, there are no failures. You either got the lesson or the result you needed.
I do love that. And I feel like that applies to so many people who are stuck at a certain level too and aren't getting the growth that they want. What lesson are you missing here? Because I feel like you stay in a certain place, repeating a certain pattern until you've learned what you need to learn to be able to get out of that and to the next level. So I love that. I love that perspective.
Yeah, it's like it's all data, right? This is all data. Either way, like it doesn't have to work, but I'll know more afterwards. And if you think about someone who's never made any mistakes, do they have anything of value to offer anybody?
They don't really have any like actual tangible experience. And failure is such a great teacher. I've constantly told people, I mean, every time something bad happens to me, yes, I will wallow for a minute and I will feel sorry for myself for a minute and do whatever I need to do to process. And then usually right after that initial woe is me feeling, my brain goes, this is going to make a great story someday.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it gives us a lot of context for empathizing with others and being able to help others. Those mistakes are going to make someone else's journey easier because you can talk them through it. And that's so valuable.
Oh, yes.
I mean, we can all feel shame about, I always say, like, everybody's got a reason to be broken, okay? Everyone's got a fucked up past, or like their parents or their aunts or their sibling or whatever. We all have an excuse to be an asshole.
Yes.
Instead, use it as an excuse to help others avoid that situation. Use it as an excuse to be better than those things. And it already ruined your life for so long. Why let it ruin your life for any longer?
Right. And then like amplify and go out and ruin other people's lives as a result because of the choices that you make. Oh, gosh. I love that you brought that up because that's one of my favorite things to talk people through too. When I rant about this often. So this is probably not the only time any of the listeners have heard me talk about the pitchfork mob. But one of my biggest problems with online business is when you have a support community, right? And you are feeling some kind of way about an interaction with a client, you feel like they've done you wrong. And you go to the internet group and you ask, hey, is this a red flag? What's going on with my client here? And you don't realize that what you've just done is send a call to arms to the pitchfork mob. Because you're only giving your side of the story, usually when you're already in a state. You're telling yourself that you're asking for perspective and for people to push back on you and to show you what you can't see, but you're not giving them enough context to be able to do so. So what you're really doing is you are signaling a call So all the people who have ever been ripped off by a client, which hint, it's all of us.
Yes,
All
everyone.
of us. And they're coming out of the woodwork to go, that is a red flag. They're disrespecting you. They're trying to screw you over. And then all of a sudden it has just swirled into this firestorm of everybody's angry. And usually I'm the one in those groups that goes, all right, alternative perspective, if you're open to it. Here are a couple of places where I see that there might have been a miscommunication or a misunderstanding. This could be something that you should talk about the client to. And by the way, the only person you're going to get clarity from in a situation like this is the client. None of us are your client. Take it for what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I love that framing of it. And then also, I'm usually like, what patterns can you spot so this doesn't happen again? So
Yes.
is it that they didn't have something in place that you needed and y'all didn't discuss it, or that you didn't manage expectations up front, or that this person didn't have the right expectations? And there's things you can spot that are like, that's why this went sideways and how I can adjust moving forward.
Yeah, I like that, because to me, the conversation isn't about how can I take blame, but how can I find my piece of this? Because there's practically no situation, except maybe if I'm a victim of a crime, where I am 0% blameless, right? And I have to own my piece of that in order to keep this, like we talked about earlier, stuck in the same pattern, to keep this from repeating. So if you're constantly dealing with clients who don't pay you, what broke in your screening process, in your sales process, in your onboarding or your setup, where you keep bringing these people into your world? What's your piece of that, right? Because they're not all shitty clients who don't pay. I promise you that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like the difference between a victim mentality and an ownership mentality. And I understand the benefits of being blameless. There are lots of benefits.
It's much more comfortable.
Yeah. It's much more comfortable. You don't have to do anything. You get to complain. You get sympathy a lot of the times too, which is nice. But I think that the benefits of creating the life you want outweigh the benefits of being a victim. So it's like, how can you take control? And like, it feels liberating once you realize that you are in control of every aspect of your life. And there are things that happen to us that we in no way created, but we can choose the reaction that we have to them.
Exactly. And I love that you pointed out earlier that we're all dealing with trauma. That when I'm talking to people about that, like, remember that when your client ghosts you, or they're late on the payment, or they're kind of snappy at you on a meeting, 9 times out of 10, that has nothing to do with you. I'm serious. They had the mother of all bad mornings. I know last year when I was in Vegas, I had an instance where I woke up in tooth pain. The electricity in my Airbnb was going off and on. A repairman showed up unexpectedly. My battery's dead. My molars cracked. Like, everything went wrong. I'm going to snap at everybody that day just because that's the mood I'm in. And it has nothing to do with who they are. But yeah, I mean, if you can give somebody grace for being human and not always getting it right, you can't, everybody's dealing with their own trauma, exactly like Aleasha said.
Yeah, it really, yeah. I mean, what bothers me a lot is like, I have a friend who's married to this guy, right? And he's like, got this explosive temper, and then says like, oh, well, it's because my dad, this and that. Like, come on, man. That's
a choice.
Yeah, it is a choice. Like, what? Okay, so you hated it. So you're just going to make everyone else experience the experience that you hated. Like, I just, like, it is a choice. You have control over it. You cannot have that reaction. And yes, there is human grace. And it's different when you keep making the same choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you keep making the same choice, that's exactly it. The word is choice. You have made a decision. Whether you've consciously made it or not is irrelevant. You've made a decision. And you can choose to be a spectator of your behavior and go, I'm not really proud of that. I can do better, and not beat yourself up over it. That's what I love about this. It took me a long time to learn the difference between that too. But like, you can look at yourself critically and own your piece of it, like we were talking about it, without it going down into a spiral where I am unworthy, I am unlovable, I am a constant fuck up who will never do better. For what you tell yourself, because your brain will make it true.
Oh, yes, that's so true. Like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes.
Yeah, very much
Absolutely.
the stories that we have running in the background. There was something that you said. Oh yeah, if you don't own your story, it'll own you. So a lot of people are like
Yes.
hiding the thing that they're like so ashamed and embarrassed of. And like,
Mhm.
you just say the thing and everyone's like, oh my God, it instantly makes them feel better about whatever their bullshit is.
Oh yeah. That's that perceived weakness into a strength. I think we talked about it when I was on your show too, because I call it the elephant in the room strategy.
Yeah. That
I don't
conflict
pretend
resolution.
nothing
Yeah.
is wrong. I call attention to the thing that I think somebody might be worrying about. And I liken it to there being an elephant somewhere in the room. Everybody knows it's there. Everybody is wondering, what the hell is that? Why is that? Are we not talking about that? So if you refuse to address it, people are going, are you crazy? Am I crazy? What is happening? Why are we not talking about this? And that's when you get to call it out and you get to own the story and go, well, yeah. Hey, by the way, in case you haven't noticed, there's an elephant over there. We are aware of it. I'm not entirely sure how it got here, but here's the plan for dealing with that. So if we want to just move into the next room over here, this is where we will be dealing with our particular issues, right? Don't pretend like it's not there. And of course, I don't have any examples that come to mind, but I know that this situation has happened in the past with people that I've coached through business situations. Like, don't pretend like it didn't happen. Oh, like for instance, there's like if a payment processor misfires and your client gets like triple charged, don't pretend like nothing happened. Go call attention to it. Don't make excuses for it. Tell them what your plan is for addressing it. Thank them for their patience and bringing it to your attention. And then just do what you can to solve it instead of going, it's not an issue. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Like really no one cares about your apology. Like they just want to know what you're going to do about it. Basically.
Exactly.
And when you call the thing out loud, when you own the story, like it's so much less bad than whatever you're telling in your head or the other person's creating in their head, because it gets crazy when it's not said out loud.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm a fan of telling people that I'm a writer for a living. Trust me, whatever I can come up with is about 1,000,000 times worse than what the actual reality is. So just tell me the truth.
Yeah. And let's deal with it from there.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, this has been such a fantastic episode. I think we need to do a part 2. We're just going to have to keep talking about this and helping people become more comfortable with sales. So for now, I'm going to say, Aleasha, please tell us where we can find out more about your business.
Yeah. So I would say go to my podcast, Sales is Not a Dirty Word. And I have short episodes about the philosophy behind selling like a natural, or the matchmaker sales method that I have. And that will give you like a good basis to know if it aligns with you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think everybody can benefit from this. I'm going to make sure that there are clickable links in the show notes, so it's so easy for people to go check you out. Also, as I briefly mentioned, I was a guest on that podcast, and it is a fabulous, fabulous show, if I do say so myself. So go check out Aleasha. Thank you so much for being on the show, and looking forward to part 2.
Thank you, Angie. This was so great.
That's all for now. If you want to keep that kick-ass energy high, please take a minute to share this episode with someone that might need a high-octane dose of "you can do it." Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the Permission to Kick-Ass podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you stream your podcasts. I'm your host, Angie Coley, and I'm here rooting for you. Thanks for listening, and let's go kick some ass.